business here. So I was having a wonderful time here, enjoying myself. Life was great. I was retired. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, the world financial system decided to blow itself up. And we had a catastrophe back in America. And I got a call from some people in I guess it was June of 2009, say, we really would like you to consider, the government wants you to come and run AIG. And at MetLife, you should know that we took MetLife in that years I was CEO from one of the larger life insurance companies in the United States to the largest life insurer in all of North America. So we went from a $10 billion company to a $40 billion company. I thought that was enough. And, you know, I wanted to take it easy, enough. But with AIG blowing up, which, as you know, is the largest insurance company in the world, it really caused some concern, at least on my part, because all of the stocks and all the companies began to fall dramatically. And it wasn't until, and some of you may have seen it reported in the internet back in August, but and I don't know how many of you are familiar with the region here, but if you look out that window, a little bit to the right is Zaten, little bay, beautiful bay here, and I'm sitting there with a friend from Sarajevo. And I keep telling him that if he doesn't treat me right, I'm going to tell the world who he is. Because I keep joking, because after I told him, you'll see why in a minute, everybody said, who's this friend that called America socialist? And I said, I'm not telling you, but one day I'll tell you who he is if he misbehaves. But he was sitting there having lunch with me. He says, I was talking about they want me to come back and go to work. And I said, I don't want to go back to work. Why would you give this up? Why would you give all this up? This is unbelievable. And he says, I know, but it seems America is struggling. It's like we in here in the former Yugoslavia, and he's from Sarajevo in Bosnia, he says, we're trying to become capitalists. And it looks like your country's decided maybe socialism is the way to go. Now, of course, it got in the headlines, and that's where everybody wants to know who he is. But he didn't call America socialist. He just said it looks like we're moving in that direction. And I said to him, I don't understand. He said, Bob, General Motors, at that time, the largest auto company in the world, is now nationalized. Chrysler, nationalized. Citibank, looking like it's getting nationalized. The Bank of America, nationalized. AIG, nationalized. It looks like the government is buying in and taking all these companies over because they can't make it on their own. And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, you know, if you think about Dubrovnik and the model that Dubrovnik was, keep in mind that in the 15th century and the 16th century, the second highest per capita income in the world was Dubrovnik. This was the second highest per capita income in the world. And so you think about it, and I say, you know what? Things can change, can't they? And maybe America won't be that icon of a system that works. And so I was really left with the challenge to give this up for a period of time, go back, work with AIG, and begin to see what I could do to turn around a great company and get it to survive, pay back the American taxpayers all that they had given the company, restore it to independence, which we're about to do after I've been there about 20 months so far, and make it become an icon of things that can be right, as well as an icon of things that can go wrong. And that was really very important. And as you begin to see us emerge, people are saying, and the government and the country, they're saying, I can't believe they did it. And what I think is important for Croatia and for this region, everyone has to understand the world you're in. Now, for me, I grew up in a little town in New York State, 2 hours from New York City. It was a resort. You made your money in 10 weeks. Your season was July and August. A little bit of like Dubrovnik has become, unfortunately. 2 months, and that's your season. And you think about how does a kid growing up in a little town in upstate New York wind up becoming CEO of two of the largest insurance companies in the world? And for me, it was the way I was raised and my life situation. My dad died when I was 10. I had a sister 12, a sister 5, and a brother 3. My mom in 1954, 4 children, a husband that just died, no will, and $250,000 in debt. My father had these big ideas of building motels. He borrowed money, built them, and died. And what my mother taught us is that, you know, if you're not afraid of tomorrow, and if you wanted to just go get it, then you can go get it. Seize the opportunity of life, and you can be successful. And all four of us actually went through college. Mind you, we had to work for it. I used to come home and complain. I said, I don't get this deal. I don't want to go to college. I want to make money. Why do I have to go to college and work to pay for it? If you want me to go to college, you pay for it. If you knew my mother, that's about as far as I got. I got a little whipping, and I got told, you get and do what you have to do. And so you learn that there's a lot of things we can do with ourselves when we see the opportunity. And that's what an entrepreneur does. And when I came here, I assessed my risks. I realized that when I got here, that this is, you can't buy this anywhere. You can't buy this beauty. You can't buy the peacefulness of this city, the beauty of this city, the people of the city. You can't buy it. My only risk was Milosevic. And I had to decide whether he would actually make it in the society going forward. And once you make those judgments and you figure your downside, away you go. But if I were to really come into this country in a big way, we got to fix some things here in a big way. My biggest concern is we have to, as a country, have a supervision system of the judges. We have a country with outstanding law. You have outstanding law. This is a country, as I shared with you, from what started in Dubrovnik, you go through the laws of this country, and what has happened over the last 5 or 6 centuries, we've got great law. The question is, how do we administer the law? And if you're at the vagaries of a judge who can put a complaint in his desk drawer saying you're not on my side, then that makes it very difficult for the entrepreneur to say, okay, I understand the business risk, I understand the political risk, but what if I'm now in the hands of that judge and there's no way around it? Let me give you an example. Somebody here in town I know has been struggling with a commercial property. She had a tenant, signed a contract with the tenant. Tenant decided after about a year, it'd be better if I didn't pay the rent. I could make more profit. Let me think about that for a minute. If I don't pay you rent for my building, then I could make more money. So what's the downside to that? The downside is you could cancel my lease and throw me out. But this is Croatia. So you can't do that. So I stopped paying the rent. And then you go to the judges. And now all of a sudden, you find yourself, after a year, that the tenant's there, doesn't pay the rent, there's no court that can support you, you have to put the tenant into bankruptcy. I have to learn that one. I have to go back to school to figure that one out. Meanwhile, we're now into the 2nd year. The tenant is now out, but refuses to give the keys back. So now they can't use the space until that's resolved. I am now having to help that person out because they're about to lose their home, which is part of the business. And I said, okay, I'll give you some loans, I'll help you through that period of crisis. But I can't imagine if I wanted to buy a big building here, and then I have to sit down and everybody says, you know what, this is great. Bob's got some money. He could afford it. I'm not making as much money as I'd like. So I just think I should stop paying rent. And then the legal system and the supervision of judges doesn't allow a very fast eviction. Now we have a movie theater in New York. We bought it. It was an old vaudeville theater to save it from destruction. It's a 1,000-seat theater built in 1924 with a beautiful organ in it and so on. And the tenant stopped paying. And my son went over, put giant chains around the door and says, you're out. That was it. Very simple. He called up and says, give me more time. He says, when you pay me, you'll get more time. Meanwhile, it's closed. We told the sheriff it's closed. If he goes near that building, arrest him. He didn't go near the building. He went to Florida and then started a new life. We need to, in Croatia, while we have the laws, you can say, Bob, we have laws. You got to supervise that. It's hard for me to want to invest money in that kind of climate. We have to clean up the book of deeds in this country. I am fortunate to have a great team. I have confidence in that team. If you do not have a good team of people that know how to do that research the right way, you could be investing in property. As I've heard the stories, there's a hotel just north of here, a big complex. They built a good part of that hotel and then found out there was a question of the deed. And the question is who actually owned the land, and they'd already put in millions, tens of millions of dollars into rebuilding that complex. As an investor, I don't want to worry about that. And so a test would be if I said, and 20%, 18%, let me not exaggerate, 18% of home mortgages in the United States are insured by AIG. We have a huge mortgage insurance business. We would not put that business in Croatia. We wouldn't even start down that road because we don't even understand the validity of the land that the house was built on that has a mortgage that we would insure. So as part of not only Croatia, but the whole Southeast European region, you've got to have it to the point that you are absolutely confident when people buy something that you have title insurance, clear access to title and the information associated with title, and that, I believe, will get you to where you have to go in the beginning of bringing entrepreneurs here who will take the business risk, but then not have to take the risk of the system. The other is, for everybody here, you have to understand the world you're competing in. And it's not against each other, I have to tell you. I've shared with people last night that if you think about one simple statistic, and as you know, AIG is very large in China. In fact, we're large in between states and countries. We're in about 160 countries and states. In New York, so take 110 countries plus the 50 states of the United States, so we're around the world. We have a big operation in Shanghai, big in Beijing, and if you think about where we are in this region, the world is flat, as Thomas Friedman wrote. And I was with him about a month ago talking about his next book, about the world and so on. And he was really talking about America and America's ability to compete in the world. And the title of his new book is That Used to Be Us. That's the new title. He talks about building a 1 million square meter site for convention and hotel, 1 million square meters. They got the idea, they got the permits, did the design, and they opened it up in less than 12 months. There is nobody here to even give you the first stamp in 12 months. You can't get that first stamp that says, okay, we'll do a plan. And there they have a building of 1 million square meters up and running. When you think about language, one of the things that you should be most concerned about, and my theory, and the Chinese have assured me that I'm on the right road. There's no science for this, so it's Bob's idea. People say to me anecdotally, it's pretty good. When Nixon opened up China, it was 1975. 15 years later, China began to realize that they have to succeed, and I had a chance to meet with Jiang Zemin during that period of time, and he said, look, we have to become a market economy. We understand that. China must be a market economy. But we must never, ever lose sight of the fact that we have 900 million farmers who are poor. And they have to eat every day. That's why this whole issue today in China is a concern of inflation. We've got to deal with 900 million farmers, keep them okay, then the 400 million who are growing into the middle class will be okay as well. That's the balance of China. And so the Chinese realized that they have to start teaching English in the elementary schools. For those of you from this region, I know many people here in Croatia, when they went to school, that are my age, all had to learn Russian. That was the important language of the day. Well, today it's English if you want to be in global commerce. If you want to understand the internet, it's English. So if you do the math, around 1990, because in 1993 at Payne Weber on Wall Street, we created one of the first funds to invest in China, the Greater China Fund, because we saw China now emerging as a market that's going to make sense over the next decade. We had no idea how fast that growth was going to be. We thought it was going to be pretty good. Today it's like a rocket taking off over in China.